My hair has not been this long in about a decade. So hello. How the fuck do people start these things off these days? Oh yeah. So a few people voiced some interest in learning a little bit more about foundation and where it came from and what some of it means, and I guess if there's anything more like it in the future. Now if you ask anybody who spends like a deal of time around me, you'll know that I have a really bad habit of like nailing something, whether it's a joke or a thought or a creative idea, and then ruining it by adding unnecessary like additions to it. This could be that for foundation, so if you feel like your experience of watching that is being spoiled by watching this one, then I encourage you to click away. But first of all, thank you. I genuinely did not expect the reaction that that video got from subscribers and fellow creators alike. It really surprised me how much a lot of it resonated with a lot of people, and for different reasons as well. There was a lot to unpack in that poem and a lot went into it, and it's been really nice to talk to people following it and see kind of what sort of sat with people the most. So I do want to emphasize that like every line, every thought had a lot of thought go into it, because it's things that I've been feeling for as long as I've not been making videos. For this whole period of emptiness on my channel, I've been trying to think of the best way in which to unpack all of the feelings I've been having without making it a really kind of pathetic-y, comeback-y vlog that nobody wants to watch. I've been around YouTube for nearly 10 years now, and I have seen my fair share of people making videos for the first time in months, or even in my case, years. And it's all very sort of like, hey guys, long time no see, this is what I'm doing in my life, you know, gonna get back on the wagon, keep making videos, so I'll give me some ideas and I'll see you soon. And then you never hear from them again. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't, you know, want that to be my legacy. I felt like I owed my channel, and I owed you guys, and I owed myself more than that. Especially since my last handful of videos, in my opinion, were kind of half-assed and also sponsored, and I didn't want to end things that way. And I should clarify from, you know, talking about the end, this is a conscious effort to continue making videos again. Foundation wasn't one and done. This video isn't two and done. A lot of people seem to interpret the line, fuck calling us a comeback, as, oh, I'm not back, I'm just popping in to say, fuck y'all, and I'm out again. No, that meant, like, I don't really consider myself to have gone anywhere. Like, sure, I haven't been making videos, but I feel in many ways I have still been very integrated with the community, and I'm very grateful to all the people who have allowed me to do that. But yeah, as I've kind of tried to make clear overall, is that the past couple of years of not making things and trying to figure out the right way of saying the things that I'm feeling has not been very easy. And that's mostly because a lot of it isn't great, and it's stuff that I would rather not feel. Things haven't really been the same since, you know, early 2014. And for those just tuning in, I will give you a very brief primer in that around March 2014 and then on to September 2014, so that whole kind of chunk of time, there were multiple, probably dozens of allegations against several YouTube creators, mostly detailing accounts of manipulation and abuse and sexual abuse to friends, fellow creators and fans, some of whom could have been underage. I don't want to harp on too much with names and details, but I will make a point of saying that I was connected to a lot of the people involved and accused. Some were, I believe, really close friends, and also they were close collaborators. You know, around that time I was still trying to process this, so I did what everyone else was doing, which was I wrote a statement, I distanced myself from them as much as I possibly could, and then moving forward I just tried to be a better person and be more vigilant of this sort of stuff happening in the community. And I never really paused to figure out how much it would affect me personally. Because the thing is, I never wanted in any way to make it about myself, because there were genuine people who'd been affected in much worse ways that I, in my life, will probably never experience. And in some cases were people making videos around that time like, oh, poor me, I've lost my closest friend, whatever will I do? And I was like, yeah, well, fuck you, don't make this about yourself. And my disdain for that and my prioritizing of other people's feelings, of course, meant that I never really took into account how much I'd been affected. But it did, of course, start to affect me in ways I didn't realize it was going to, and that includes like creative motivation and trust of people, and including like fucking hell, financial stuff. Around this time I'd been living in London for about 6 months, sort of trying to make it as a creator like everyone else seemed to be doing at the time. And I will admit that at the time my main source of income was royalties from music that I'd made with some of these people. And it didn't really hit me until, you know, about a month or so later when that source of income just dried up. Nobody was buying that music anymore. Why would they? So, you know, I just sort of come out of the grieving period, and then suddenly it was like, oh, I can't afford to eat this month. Cool. And I'll admit, this had been going on a little bit before that. I was still trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and I was looking for actual jobs. But this was a hurdle I hadn't prepared for, and that turned into a huge level of self-doubt. And in my mind I was very much like, hey, why didn't you prepare for this? Why didn't you work harder? Why don't you have a job yet? And self-doubt very quickly became a form of self-hatred. And it became very hard to create content for a platform that had become in many ways very toxic, and also knowing that in some small part I'd possibly helped to foster. So yeah, I wasn't really creating, and my heart wasn't in the stuff that I was making, and then the only real things that I was willing to do was stuff that would earn me money, which isn't a great look on your channel. I started working in pubs again in the interim. That kind of kept me going for a little bit. That was pretty demoralizing because I was really excited the day that I could quit my pub job to become a full-time YouTuber, and then going back to that a few years later wasn't the best feeling. And that was, you know, for a good sort of 4 to 6 months of my life was probably the lowest I felt in a very long time. Eventually I struck out and got a job writing about like digital editorial content about music and internet news for a website, which has been really cool. And my full-time job is still with that company, but it's changed in many different ways. I was writing a little bit of content about YouTube now and then, and from that we sort of launched a whole website dedicated to that stuff. And that's where I'm working now. That's full-time. It's the site's called WeTheUnicorns.com. You might be familiar with it. I still don't particularly know where the name came from, so don't ask. And yeah, that's sort of become my full-time job with a team of people, is writing editorial content and news and just a bunch of sort of lifestyle-y things about the YouTube sphere. And you know, that's been a really fun and interesting way of staying in with the community and keeping tabs on what's happening sort of all around. But at the same time, it's been really weird being that involved but not being a creator still. It's weird to have YouTube as your 9 to 5 and your social life, so in many ways you're 24/7, but not actually making anything. So that's sort of been weighing on me every time I go into work and every time I hang out with a group of people, is like, where do I fit here? Like, can I realistically be friends with a lot of these people if someone in my office wants to write about their relationship? It's been a weird sort of paradox where I don't know exactly whereabouts I fit, while at the same time having no idea how to put any of these thoughts or feelings or worries into a video that people would actually give a shit about watching. And then so like, I don't know, one day, it was the day after work, I was walking around central London, I think it was like Covent Garden. I was playing Pokemon as I do, and I was listening to Hamilton as I do, and I was thinking a lot about this sort of stuff, and then the words just started rhyming. This is gonna sound so pretentious and wanky and unrealistic, but genuinely, the words just started happening. I haven't written a decent piece of prose or poetry in years, and yet here was this thing sort of presenting itself to me. So I quickly jotted down every note that was coming up, every thought I had, every line, and then it formed into Foundation, which you know. Before a lot of this, I've been thinking of the Hamilton line, I wrote my way out, a lot. And then it just sort of happened, and I can't fathom it. I can't process how it happened. I don't know if I'll ever write anything like that ever again, but it happened, and it's now out in the world, and it's had the reaction that we know about today, and I cannot really process it still. All I know is that something in my mind has been sort of unplugged and unloaded, and there's a stream flowing again that feels really good. And I don't want you to think in any way that I've been trapped in my mind in this miserable mental prison for the past 2 or 3 years. I've been doing sort of okay. I don't think that my mental health is particularly 100%. I have yet to be diagnosed in any way, but I tend to resonate pretty well with a lot of symptoms of depression. But in general, in life, I am doing alright. I've just moved into a nice cool little flat. I've just moved out of a converted warehouse space, which in hindsight could have been a perfect place for filming videos. I had a bedroom with no window, which meant that using studio lighting would have been really great all the time, but now I have a window, so that's fine. I'm in a now long-term relationship with someone amazing, and that's going great. It's probably the most open and healthiest relationship I've had ever, probably. And yeah, now I feel ready and in a good position to continue making stuff. And I don't know what that means for this channel. I don't know what I'll be making, whether I'll be trying to write more poetry or maybe trying to crack that music thing that I've been talking about for years. I can't fucking play any instruments except ukulele. Who am I trying to kid? But in terms of the future, there's, you know, there's a lot sort of coming up. There's a really cool project I've been working on with my friend Charlie that I think you're gonna love. And in the sake of full honesty and transparency, which I'm gonna try and maintain as much as possible on this channel from now on, I already seem to have a brand deal lined up. It's a really cool project, and it's with a brand I've worked with before, Royal Bank of Scotland, so you'll see that coming up really soon. In the meantime, thank you again for the incredible reaction that Foundation got. I genuinely did not expect it, and also thank you for just being without a doubt, my favourite community on the internet. I feel very lucky in the way in which the audience I seem to have cultivated in my sort of almost decade on the internet has been very sort of mature and has grown up with me in many ways, and has also been very inclusive all the time, has never become like too kind of gatekeepery, and it's never really devolved into any sort of unnecessary hero worship that that could be exploited by a lesser person. As I've said in the past, I'm going to strive every day to be as good as most of you. And I hope that with that comes a lot of stuff that I enjoy making and you enjoy watching and that we enjoy together. So I don't really know how to sign this off. My battery's flashing, so that's probably going to do it for me. But thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you around.